Hey lash friends, okay, so let's do some hybrid lashes. As you can see here, I'll be using CC Curl in 0.20, and I'll also be using D Curl in 0.05. Now, just so you'll know, hybrid lashes is a mix of classic and fans, volume fans, so it's 50-50 mix. If you have clients that have more fuller lashes, I would say the ratio should be about 70% classics and then 30% hybrids, because if you do 50-50 mix on someone who has a lot of natural lashes, you're probably going to come out with a volume set. So just kind of keep that in mind. So what I'm doing first is I am now going to start applying my classic lashes first. Now the reason I am using a 0.20, which I never use on my clients, I only use it when I am applying to my mannequin, especially for video, is so that way you can see. Sometimes I feel like thinner lashes do not read well when doing videos. It just depends on the lighting, and I am doing this from my dining room instead of my beauty bar. So the lighting here, I had to kind of, always have to kind of get a little crafty with it, which means that I have to go to a bigger width, which is the 0.20s. But naturally, on a client, you would either want to use maybe a 0.10, depending on how fine their lashes are, anywhere between a 0.10 to a 0.18, depending on how natural you want the lashes to look. So in any case, here I'm just isolating and I'm just placing my lash. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. Oh, but before I do, remember that when placing your lashes, you always want to place the base of the extension to the base of the natural lash, and then lay the rest of the lash down. If that base is not connected to the natural lash, your lashes are going to pop off. It will cause bad retention, and what we want is good retention. So remember, base to base of the lashes. Also, if you find that a lash is just not dropping on and staying on, after a couple of tries, pull the lash off and then replace it with a new fresh lash immediately before the adhesive dries on the natural lash, because once it dries, you are not going to be able to get good adhesion to the natural lash if the glue has dried on the natural lash. So this is just a couple of tips. So I am going to back away from the mic and let you enjoy watching me place the classic lashes to the lash, and then I'll be back. Okay, ladies, so we are done doing the first half of this set, which is just placing half classic lashes. Well, 50% of the lashes is going to be classic lashes. Now we're moving into the volume lashes, the fans. So I am going to be making small or light narrow fans. Again, I'm using a 0.05. I don't want to use a 0.03 because I don't want it to look too soft, and I don't want to use a 0.07 because to me that's just a little too heavy when doing that on natural lashes. So I like to opt for something right in the middle, which is that 0.05. And again, it's just going to be very soft, natural looking narrow fans. I don't do wide fans on hybrid sets just because we're supposed to still be keeping this natural looking. So also remember that, you know, when placing both classic and volume fans, if you need to, you can always place on the bottom, well, underneath the lash, the natural lash, and on the sides of the natural lash. You don't always have to place on top of the natural lash because sometimes the natural lash is just not going to allow you to place it on top. You know, so if it's a really curly lash or just a difficult lash, place it on the sides or place it at the bottom. But as long as the base is attached to the base of the natural lash, it's going to retain its retention. So all right, so that is my tip for that, and we're going to finish out with the fans here and enjoy the music. Okay, ladies, here we are with the final results of a hybrid lash. This is fuller than a natural classic set, but a lot less fuller than a volume set, which is really pretty. So I think this is great for those that still want to keep it natural looking but have a little fullness.